I'm the disc golf guy.
And this is my second round at Winthrop.
Get prepared. We're gonna slay this course.
Yeah, we are.
Hey, Max.
And after taking the unique hyzer route on the left-hand side, Max Nichols, less than 20 feet for his birdie 2. He makes good. Gregg Barsby makes good as well from 10 feet. Rico also from within 10 feet. Nate Doss looks to be about the same. Four drives and 4 birdies. That's how you get it done here. Hole number 1. Gregg Barsby going with a Star Roadrunner to throw his very nice looking roller shot. Doss going with a nice low air shot. He's going to be on the left-hand side, set up nicely. Rico also throwing a roller. Tough to tell if that got hung up there on the right-hand side. And Max's Star Destroyer is straight up the middle. You'll have a look at it from there. There's your tee shots on hole number 2, 629 feet. Rico goes with a forehand after getting caught up on this right-hand side, and that should place him up there nicely. He's going to be playing for a par 4 here. Nichols going to the right-hand side of the OB, playing up on the right. He's going to have a long putt for 3. And Doss goes to the right and catches a tree on the far right side. Gregg Barsby with a forehand. Rico going with an icon clutch on the right hand side, skips up just a bit short. Doss's putt for 3 is up and needed just a bit more hyzer. And Rico makes good from more than 40 feet here to save the par 4. Going to have a slight sigh of relief here. Solid putt here on the second hole. Barsby's putt is up and just gets over the basket for the second day in a row. He's carding the birdie 2 here on hole number 2. Max Nichols is off the top of the basket for his birdie 3 attempt. He's going to have to settle with a par here on hole number 2. Doss will be tapping in and taking a par 4, which means Doss, Nichols, and Rico all with par 4s, and Gregg Barsby with the birdie 2. Let's move on to hole number 3. We are over here at hole number 3. Gregg Barsby has the tee, and his forehand is carrying right toward the woods. Nate Doss is up next, throwing a Z Wasp. And Doss is dialing it in here. He's going to be coming in nicely, just actually deep. Got a little more skip here on the wet grass. Skip perfectly straight. He has no signs or indicators as to in or out of bounds, but
Green flag. Green is good.
we do see finally a green flag.
No, I wasn't stressed.
Doss joking, saying that he wasn't stressed. This is Steve Rico on the tee. Steve Rico asking that to hold on, and it comes in on the right-hand side. Gets hung up. He's going to have a long putt there. The lefty Max Nichols will be throwing next. I believe Max has a shark in his hand. And Max seems as if he may have pulled out a little more left than he was hoping for, but if that comes in, and unfortunately he's going to be left and out of bounds. Steve Rico with almost 60 feet, and he is just off the top of the basket. A very solid run here by Steve Rico. And Barsby has a 45-footer from one knee off on the right-hand side and just a few inches short. Max Nichols is putting from what's considered the hazard area. He has a 1-stroke penalty. However, it's not treated like a normal out of bounds where you bring it in 1 meter. You play from where it is with a 1-stroke penalty. So it's like a modified OB from what you're used to seeing. And Nate Doss's birdie attempt is off the front of the rim. Max puts in for what will be a penalty 4. Gregg Barsby here will be cleaning up for his par 3, and we'll see the same out of Doss and Rico. Not the hot start these gentlemen were looking for here. We'll see if they can pick it up. We're going to move over to hole number 4. Barsby with a forehand off the tee here. Nate catches the trees on the left-hand side. A little housekeeping here by Steve Rico. And Rico's shot is a little high, however it does carry forward. And Nichols going with a low shot, looking for a skip. However, it goes pretty much straight forward for him. Doss with a low forehand shot. Steve Rico going with a forehand shot. Looking for a little bit more of a skip than he got there. However, he is on the good side of the mandatory. And Nichols with a misfire. However, he gets a favorable kick, so he'll still be able to navigate around the left-hand side of that mandatory tree. Barsby going with a cut roller. Barsby throwing a cut roller, trying to get it to roll up into the right. However, it got up and went straight on him. He's going to have a challenging up and down. Max has a hyzer shot around the edge of the trees. He's going to be on the circle's edge. Steve Rico has a slight turnover down to the basket, and he's done so very nicely. Doss with a standstill turnover. Very nice shot at the basket. He's playing for a par 4. Barsby's roller actually carried out of bounds over the road. So unfortunately he's going to be adding an additional stroke there. Nichols makes good on his par attempt. He'll be carding a 4. Barsby still has some work to do as he's on the left-hand side. He's going to be from one knee from 24 feet. And somehow that slides out the right-hand side on Barsby. He's going to go ahead and tap in a very challenging hole here today. Certainly not the birdie he had yesterday. And Steve easily makes good on his par attempt. I expect the same of Doss. And there it is. Very challenging here today. No birdies surrendered and only pars and above. Let's move over to the very long and challenging hole number 5. And Nate Doss going with a Hyzer shot right off the tee here. Nice and low. Very nicely placed here by Nate Doss. We are here on hole number 5 again, measuring in at 1,083 feet. We're on the new tee, which has just been debuted this year, similar to what you find on hole number 18. In fact, throwing over the same lake, of course. And Rico throwing a first run Icon Outlaw and landing in a nearly identical spot to Nate Doss. Very nice shot. And a solid shot there by Nichols. And Barsby keeping it a little bit lower. Very nice shot. And gets the green flag. And Nichols throws straight out, and he's going to be finishing on that right hand side, perfectly placed for a lefty. Gregg Barsby going with a low forehand shot, being up on the right hand side. That is a giant, which he threw very frequently yesterday. And Rico's shot is hugging that right hand side and then finishes nicely in the center of the fairway, exactly where you want to be. And Doss thinks that was a little too much, and unfortunately it was. He is carried just over the edge of the pond. And after some deliberation with himself, Max goes with a champion turn and easily puts himself onto the green. Nate Doss is going up and around, and unfortunately catches on the right hand side. Steve Rico's flips up. His rival unfortunately gets up and carries right for him. Gregg Barsby going with a Z force and has placed himself within 25 feet of the pin. Nate Doss's approach is within 15 feet of the pin. And Rico's putt from nearly 100 feet is just off the mark. And Barsby's putt is short. The woes continue here on hole number 5. Seems as if these gentlemen have not quite found their comfort zone here today. Doss with a rare mistake of throwing OB into the lake. Steve Rico will settle for a par 5, as will Nichols, and Barsby. We're through 5, the 1,083 footer. Let's head to the beach. Steve going up the right hand side, the inside route. And he did push over to the left. He's going to get a confirmation.
Green.
And he gets a green flag. He's going to have a putt there for birdie 2. Max Nichols next to tee. And Max looking for a little bit of turnover here. There is a artificial lake straight out, and that is exactly what the spotter's running to verify, is if he made it to that lake or not. Third to tee is Gregg Barsby. And Greg a little lower than he was looking for. Looks like he also got a kick off the tree. However, looks as if that's a green flag for Greg. And Nate also taking the same route Steve Rico did. He's looking for a little hyzer skip finish, and not quite as much as he's hoped for. Barsby's birdie is up and just at the base of the pole. And Max is onto the beach. He's going to be taking a par 3 here. And Nate's putt from 32 feet is off the side of the basket. This will be Steve Rico for birdie 2. Steve is about 31 feet from the pin. And Steve is just off the left side of the chains. In the most odd of Nate Doss does stay in bounds. It was tough to tell at first, but he did stay in bounds. He's going to be carding the par 3, as will the rest of the gentlemen on this card. Gregg Barsby, Max Nichols, and Steve Rico. Not exactly a day at the beach here. These guys have started out somewhat slow. I'm looking forward to them picking it up here once we get to 7. I've moved over here behind the pin on hole number 7. And Steve Rico was out here the other day practicing this hole, trying to get it dialed in, and I think he has done just that. He had previously been throwing forehand shots, trying to punch through the gap because he was not comfortable. And it looks like he's decided to change up his game plan, and it has been very effective here. Max Nichols, a fellow California boy. Him and Steve Rico actually play together somewhat frequently in the great state of California. And Max seems to have this dialed in as well, as he's placed himself within 8 feet of the pin. Gregg Barsby is lining up for a forehand shot. Gets a little lift to it and punches through the gap. He's about 33 feet short of the basket. And like his previous 3 card mates, Nate Doss took a par on hole number 6, leaving him 4th to tee. And Doss has pulled this right, and unfortunately he has in fact passed over the mandatory. He will receive a 1 throw penalty and have to go throw from one of the 2 mandatory drop zones. And after missing the mandatory, Doss has a layup to the basket. He's going to be carding a bogey 4. And Barsby makes good from 28 feet, carding the birdie 2. As I said, Max is within 10 feet of the basket. He's looking to card a birdie 2 here as well. And I will expect the same out of Steve Rico. So with that being said, we have birdies by Rico, Nichols, and Barsby, and the bogey 4 by Nate Doss. We're going to cross the road, head over to hole 8. Steve Rico going with a forehand drive off the tee here on hole number 8.
Got around it.
Looking for that to carry a little bit further right, however that should set up all right. They are playing to the longer pin position today, measuring in at 629 feet. This hole will play that much harder, just 30 feet longer. And Nichols throwing what I believe is a Casey T-Bird, which is what we also saw him throw on hole number 6. Gregg Barsby with a forehand shot that catches the tree. However, he's still awarded a green flag. He is in bounds. However, I know he was hoping to get just inside that tree. And Doss with a stand-up mid-range. Straight up the gut. Very solid shot by Nate Doss. And Steve Rico with a very awkward stance is able to throw his approach up and to the left. And Barsby going with his trusty eagle forehand. Kicks off one of the shorter trees on the right-hand side. Nate Doss with a very nice looking shot, carrying all the way toward the green. He's going to have a putt at birdie 3 here to this long pin. And Max Nichols looks like it's short and right. And And Steve Rico gives it a good bid from 100 feet. Max's putt is up and just behind the pin. Oh, and Barsby's patent pending turnaround shot from 60 plus is just off the high left chain. And Doss's birdie attempt does not draw metal. He's gone 15 feet past. No problem for Steve Rico. He's going to put in for his par 4. As will Gregg Barsby. This is a different pin position than what we saw yesterday. Again, it's about 35 feet longer actually. And Doss is in. And Max will be tapping in. That will be 4 fours here. We will see more 4s than 3s today for sure here on hole number 8, which was already challenging enough to birdie. And then they moved it back, so Max is in for the 4. 4 fours. We'll move on to hole number 9. Steve Rico going with a forehand off the tee into the layup zone, and that is exactly where you'd like to place yourself on this hole. Max is going to be throwing a champion T-bird. And Max is able to flirt a little bit more with that OB line. However, you do not want to be too far to the right. Barsby again going with his trusty eagle. And he is up and on the right hand side. That may or may not be obstructed from there. And Doss throwing a backhand challenger off the tee. And he is out and in the layup area. Doss going for the basket, coming up just a bit short and right. Steve Rico going for the green as well, and just inside Nate Doss's. In fact, they both look to be about exactly 23 feet from the pin, right next to one another. Gregg Barsby has landed just a few inches left of the drop zone mat. And he could have used a little bit more power on that. In fact, there is a double checking to make sure if he is in or out of bounds. It's very close and looks like it's going to be a red flag. He has come up short of the pin and is OB. And Max could have used a little more wide angle on that. However, he's going to have a putt from about 33 feet. Gregg with a very smart move, calling a provisional shot just in case he does find himself in bounds. And he's just inside 33 feet for his putt. And Barsby's putt slips out of the left-hand side of the chains.
Calm down, man.
Max Nichols' birdie from 29 feet is just short on this elevated basket. Steve Rico is left with about 23, maybe 24 feet here. Steve going for a birdie 3. And a rare inside the circle miss by Steve Rico. Nate Doss is 1 foot closer than Steve. And Nate makes good from 22 feet.
Make sure you put my blow up on your video, because I don't see that many on your videos, and I'd like to see more of it. And I think that's the first one I've had all year.
Wow. Yeah. That was the front 9.